think about the seeds that we're planting, both kind of individually but collectively. And so I work with my clients a lot in the sense of their life garden, of our life garden. And so, what are the seeds that we want to plant, and how do we do that together, so that you can really nurture and learn to nurture? How much water does it need? How much time and space and energy does that seed or seeds actually need? And when you, understand that we can do this together and as a community, as a collective, it just helps to have this sort of sense of your own life garden, what you want to plant, nurture and grow, but also that someone else's is right next to you too, is right next door. And when you need some help, when maybe you need to cocoon for a bit, and you can get your neighbor to water your seeds for you. And I mean that metaphorically, but I think community is just at the heart of everything that I do with Root Beginnings.
Hello, lovely audience. This is Shadab Mughal. I'm your host for today, and this is another episode of Fearless Women Coaches Unveiled series where you get to meet lovely coaches from all around the world. And today we have an incredible guest with us, Laura Mai. And without further ado, let's welcome Laura. Hello, Laura.
Hi, so lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for showing up, Laura. And I'm really excited for this interview because I have been going through your profile since past few days, and the more I was reading about you, and the more I was getting excited about this interview. So thank you for showing up.
Of course, thank you so much. And just before this conversation, we were talking about when we show up and when we don't,
Yeah,
especially at this
yeah,
time of year.
yeah. And you're right in that. But before we dive deeper into that, I would love you to introduce yourself to our audiences.
Of course, thank you. Yes, so hi everyone. I'm Laura Mai Edwards, founder of Root Beginnings. Root Beginnings essentially offers a sanctuary of space for those of us caught in the relentless pursuit of external success. So I do that through mind body or somatic coaching, seasonal workshops, and annual retreats that are scattered around the world, which I've been lucky enough to visit. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And that is pretty exciting. I would love to talk about the root beginnings later, but before that, I would love to know about you, Laura. Would you like to describe who Laura is? Would you like to describe in three adjectives?
Yes. And it's funny asking that question because I think that I have spent a long time trying to unpack everything over this last sort of decade, because my answer to that question would have been so different 2 years ago. Because I think what we tend to say is, or lean to, is what we do, not who we are. So I love that question, and I actually still find it difficult to answer. um, but I think who I am is a is somebody who is from Jamaica, who loves to be outside, who loves to be in the warmth of the sun, by the sea, uh, fueled by things which I love to do, like horse riding and reading and being with my friends and family.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And I could sense that you are a nature lover, I would say, because these are some of the traits, or these are some things that I really like about, because I'm really close to nature. So thank you so much, Laura. And Laura, I always ask this question to every guest of mine. You are not the exception, I would say. So what is your definition of being fearless?
Oh, I think, I wonder if it's never truly fearless. It's just knowing the difference when you need to feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, just do
So I think
it.
there's always a bit of fear, I think, but it's when you're making that move, taking that leap, or making even that small step. It's knowing and trusting that you're doing it for yourself, for the right reasons because it feels truly authentic to you. And there's a difference between that real sort of, I don't know what it is. It's really kind of borderline with excitement, I'd say. You kind of really feel it bubbling in your core, but it's fear. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this anyway. Versus the fear of doing something which doesn't feel aligned, to you. There's a difference. There's sort of a resistance to doing that because maybe you feel like you should, versus something that you really want. So this kind of a real desire. You still have the fear, but it's different.
Wow, that is a very different definition of being fearless that I have ever heard on this podcast. And I am glad that you shared with us. And I would always say that yes, because fear will always be there. It's the choice that you really need to make because the fear is there, and then you have a choice to be fearless and do it anyway, or choice to just push back yourself, or back off from the situation and just be fearful of whatever it is. So yes, this is incredible. And as a mindset coach, I always believe that fear are invisible mental limitation. I mean,
Mm.
it's invisible. It's just like a haunting story or whatever it is that is going inside of you. And when the more you feed this story, or the more you feed this invisible monster, then it will be really difficult for you to really make that choice that we are talking about. And even then if you make that choice, that is a powerful thing. And that to me is being fearless.
Mm. Yeah, that's so interesting because I think that it's worth unpacking that a little bit because I feel that as we go through life, our identities and layers are sort of, they pack on as they would, the people that you meet, the jobs that you take, whatever experiences you have has an impact on who you are and how you show up. And along the way, you have experiences which create limiting beliefs for sure. Maybe something happens and you retract, from the world, or and that can be different scales and severities for us. But as you said, along the way, those beliefs can also, pack on to who we are and have an impact on then how we show up. So, and that can cause fear. It can put us into a comfort zone or to a bubble which keeps us small. And so it's interesting that when you're wanting to make a decision to take a leap or to make a change, to kind of revisit what those limiting beliefs are, or where the fear is really coming from. Where is it? What is it rooted in? And can you do something to give it some love sometimes? Sometimes really it is. It's just giving yourself some self-compassion to say it's okay. These things have happened in a different situation or in a separate experience, and that's not me anymore. And that's what sort of fuels you to say, okay, actually, this does feel fearful, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I just love that you touched on the limiting belief part, because limiting beliefs are the ones they are holding us back. Because if we believe something at the back of our mind, even if we are not aware of that thing, that belief can give birth to any kind of fear. And that is something, I mean, we need to really think about, because if you really need to get rid of your fears, I won't say that you can completely get rid of your fears. Fear will always be there. I would say it's your companion in your life. So it will always be there. So when you get to know about your limiting beliefs, or you identify those limiting beliefs, because most of the time we are not aware what limiting beliefs we are harboring inside of us for long. So I would like to ask you, was there any time in your life where being fearless was the only option for you?
Yes. Yeah. And I think, in probably my most dramatic change of my life is probably where that played a role. I had spent over a decade in corporate roles in finance in particular, and then later on in media. And it was one sort of role after another, fully focused on the sort of corporate ladder and just moving up. And that in some ways, although I didn't recognize that I was, not on the path that I wanted to be on until this last few years, it was in some sort of way, it was comfort. It was you had a system that you
Yeah.
were that I was in, and I moved through that, and it was constantly around this sense of I should. I had this idea of where I wanted to get to, based on family expectations, etc. The usual sort of society and external conditions that we have when we're growing up, and it was just that sort of relentless pursuit, basically, of trying to get to that, until I had a series of quite intense and severe mental health issues, and really reached complete burnout. And I now know that sort of term to be more burnout of the soul, more than sort of burnout than mind and body, because where I was heading was in complete misalignment with where my soul wanted me to take me, I guess, or what my life purpose was. And I got to a point where my body literally said no. Gabor Mate talks about this a lot in his books, but in his one book in particular, the body says no, and that's quite literally where I got to, in my decision. I had reached the pinnacle of where I thought I wanted to be with my career as chief of staff, and but then suddenly it didn't matter, and that felt so strange to me. I was like, but I've just worked so hard to get here. What is going on? Why is my whole being sort of collapsing in this moment? And it was in that moment that I knew I had to be fearless and take a complete change of direction in my life, because I physically, sort of mentally and soulfully, couldn't continue in the direction that I was going in. So that was the moment where it was like, okay, I'm going to have to do something very different here. And I had no idea what that looked like. And I think that's where a lot of the time for us fear kicks in, is because it's unknown. We don't know what that path is. For so long, we've kind of been on this corporate ladder or on this particular direction, which we know. And, my hope with Root Beginnings is that we don't have to always experience that extremity of needing to then take a leap in another direction because of that. But um, yeah, so I think that's where fear can kick in. But that was my moment for sure.
I'm sorry, Laura, that you had to go through the burnout of the soul, I would say, because this is the term that I have never heard of. And I would love you to describe what does that mean, burnout of the soul. Because as someone who has been on this spiritual journey for past 9 years, I would say, I do
Mm.
understand the meaning of it, but for our audience, we really need to clarify the burnout of the soul because we are we are in that race where we have really left ourselves behind. We think the burnout is taking place physically, but the term that you have used, burnout of the soul, this is exactly what happens to us when we transit from one area of our life, or when our soul says to us, this enough is enough, the old
Mm.
ways of living are no longer working, and you need to make a different choice right in this moment. So would you like to describe what does that mean for our audience, burnout of the soul?
Yeah, of course. And I think it will be such a personal journey for everybody. But I think it's such a new term for me because, frankly, one of the reasons that I feel so passionately about somatic coaching, the connection between mind and body, and somatic meaning the body, is that in the run up to that feeling of and understanding what burnout of the soul means to me, at least, is I I just don't I didn't feel connected to my body at all. And that sounds so odd to share and say now. But actually, on reflection, I was so in my mind about everything. Everything was in my mind. The pressure of the job, the should do list, that everything was just living in my mind. So, as things started to sort of physically start, to change in terms of my ability to do this job, as in feeling exhausted all the time, or all of the sort of the physical signs, I was like, what is going on? Why am I not working? Why am I not functioning? Um, that was just the start of the journey to understanding that there was something so much more deeper at play than just my lack of ability to do the job, which of course fed into the narrative that I was telling myself around lack of self-worth, or I can't do this, I'm a failure, what's going on? Um, and actually taking that decision to be fearless and make a change forced me to really look at what was going on at a deeper level, really, in my heart and my soul. Because what I realized was that over that whole time of my corporate career, it had solely been because I felt I should, because other people had been saying, you know, this is a great career, you're doing a great job, this is fantastic, you know, all of that external, which is not bad. And you know, for you know, and that really is absolutely fine in some cases. But if it's not in alignment with what you truly want to do, there's this constant niggle inside. And I only started listening to that when I started to slow down, because I recognize now that I was ignoring it. I was just ignoring it. And then so actually it was a flip. To me, it was my mind with my mental health, and then my body with my physical health, and then my soul. But actually what I realize now is that all along there had just been this little voice, this little niggle that was saying, this isn't right, this is too much, this is not the direction, you know, all of the things which I now intuitively can listen to. I had no idea what that meant before. I had just thought that it was an experience that, you know, I needed to ignore because, of course, I was on the right path. I was on the trajectory. Like, why on earth would there be anything wrong with that? So, the burnout of the soul was, it needed my whole sort of mind and body needed to show me, because that was what was physically going to stop me before I could start listening to really what my purpose was and what my true kind of authentic mission is in this world. And that takes time. Goodness, it takes time. That is not something, certainly for me, that I just got to. And I'm still on that journey to really understanding how that feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is true. And I'm glad that you have listened to your body and to the voice of your soul or the whisper of your soul. And those of
Mm.
you who do not know that we were supposed to meet earlier this week to record this interview, but at the 11th hour, Laura had to make a choice between what her body was saying or what the external pressure was saying to her, or I would say the blueprint that is given by the society was saying to her. So let's hear about it from Laura. Yes, Laura, what were the two choices that you were supposed to make out of them? You were supposed to make, and you what choice you made? Yeah.
This week, yes. Well,
Mm.
you know, as much as I, through root beginnings, am try and embody this sense of feeling grounded and listening to the body, I realize and recognize that we can still get so carried away by external expectations. And I think, especially at this time of the year, I don't know about you or anybody else that's listening, but certainly, you know, this is the week before Christmas, and I had this sort of perfect week set up in terms of doing the final things that I wanted to do before the end of the year. But I had just come back from New York. I'd have been in LA the previous week. It had been a very intense month of travel and demanding work commitments. And you know, I was so excited to have this conversation on Monday. But on Monday morning, I woke up, and again, as a reference, que vos mates, the you know, the my body literally said no, and I had a complete meltdown. I don't mind sharing that and being fully vulnerable, because I couldn't. I had started to pick up this cold. I was feeling extremely run down. And suddenly, all of the commitments I had made this week just piled on and on and on. And I just couldn't do it. I sat in the middle of the room and I just cried. And I thought, I don't know why I have done this to myself. You know, my perfect week had actually been packed with things which were wonderful to do, but way too much of a stretch. You know, I was pushing myself to the extreme because I felt that I needed to record these. I had a couple of podcasts, you know, set up for this week. You know, I needed to, to write this insightful, profound blog, you know, the perfect wrap up of the year of the successes and challenges, all of those things. And frankly, in the middle of that room, my body just said, no, no, you don't. actually, no, you don't, at least not today. And so it took a lot of courage to message you and say, I'm here physically and I can do this, if we need to, but I would so appreciate it if we could actually push it back a couple of days so I could just reset. And I so appreciated your understanding. But it's just a moment where we have to make that choice where, it's saying to ourselves, no, you need to do it. You've got to do it, and putting that pressure on. And sometimes you have to, don't get me wrong. We live in a world where we do have to do that. And that is also okay. But there are some times when you do have a choice and you can say, you know what, I do not need to do this today and I can let it go. And that's okay. It doesn't make me a worse person. And I think that when we're in a community like we are here, there is so much support for that. And the more that we can do that and listen to our bodies, the better.
That is beautiful, and I'm glad that you have made this choice because at the end of the day, we are here to live every moment over here. We are not just here to follow the path or to follow the blueprint of the society and do as and sacrifice our health, or I would say our soul, in this race of life. So I'm glad that you done that. Thank you so much. So let's get back to the coaching stuff. Laura, you told us that you have been coming from the corporate world, and then you chose a completely different path for yourself. I would love to know what really made you to choose this specific field of coaching. I mean, you could have chosen something else as well, but why coaching?
So it's interesting because we were talking before about um, the doing dimension
Yeah.
of ourselves, and a lot of the time we introduce ourselves as the one thing that we do. So that's normally our job. And through, the decade or so of my career, that's what I always did. And so if you look at it through that lens, to then go into coaching, it looks like a complete shift. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, well, that's a very different path. But actually, it's pulling together the different threads of all of my gifts and my skills and my passions, because as you know, as a coach, you can bring in so much to that space. There's so many different areas you can specialize in, but it's also beautifully broad. And way back even before, I was in the corporate space. I was a riding instructor, so I love to teach. And at school, I used to help other people with their reading and things. And so I naturally wanted to help other people, and but particularly sort of teach and mentor. So again, it's just kind of pulling the different threads, through my career as well. I was setting up different mentorships in the companies that I was working with. I brought in project management to Reuters. I love to be able to teach, people to do and learn different skills. And so that sort of sense of giving and receiving and offering and working with other people just came really naturally to me. So the shift to coaching, although it was on sort of seemingly a big different direction, actually it's just bringing so much of my authentic dimensions together, in the same way that I do somatic coaching because I'm a yoga teacher as well. We used to run retreats at our family property in Jamaica, and so that's been in my life for 20 years or so. And so it all just kind of brings things together. And I think that's just what I'm so passionate about when I work with my clients, or even when I'm just around my friends and family. It's just who we are holistically brings so much color and vibrance and uniqueness to the conversation, to the world. And I think that that's where I feel so passionate about, is just offering that a space for people to really come alive in their most authentic ways.
Couldn't agree more. And I just love the name of your coaching business, Root Beginnings, because it is the essence of what I am seeing. Maybe I'm wrong, but what I am seeing, it is the essence of your own life. And it could be the essence of other people's life as well, because at the end of the day, it all starts from inside. We have to
Mm.
get to the root of what it is, who we are, and then only we can begin this journey, or walk this path of beauty, of desires, of transformation, I would say. So would you like to elaborate what is the mission of Root Beginnings? And tell us something about your business, coaching business here.
Yeah. So, as you beautifully just explained, at the root is, coming back to the root of who we are, and being able to then create a life which truly feels aligned, to our authentic sense of self, and fueling that, reigniting that constantly with our authentic motivations. And I think that, root beginnings for me is such um, a term, I guess, of the collective. Um, and as we root in ourselves, it also, for me, always makes me feel and think about the seeds that we're planting, both kind of individually but collectively. And so I work with my clients a lot in the sense of their life garden, of our life garden. And so, what are the seeds that we want to plant, and how do we do that together, so that you can really nurture and learn to nurture? How much water does it need? How much time and space and energy does that seed or seeds actually need? And when you understand that we can do this together and as a community, as a collective, it just helps to have this sort of sense of your own life garden, what you want to plant, nurture, and grow, but also that someone else's is right next to you too, is right next door. And when you need some help, when maybe you need to cocoon for a bit, and you can get your neighbor to water your seeds for you. And I mean that metaphorically, but I think community is just at the heart of everything that I do with Root Beginnings. If I'm in a community, I want to be able to share my own offerings and gifts through the seasonal workshops and retreats and coaching. But I also want to open up to everybody else who's around so that we can learn and grow together. And I think that's really my mission, is to have these sort of sense of authentic life gardens that we not only are planting ourselves for our own authentic missions, but that we're planting in and around our communities that can help us nurture and nourish. And literally just this week, actually, before I made that decision to not do the Monday recording, I reached out to my community and my friend, and she was the one that said to me, "You don't need to do it all. You need to give yourself permission to listen to your body." And I think it's in those moments that the power of community, really plays its role and shows up, because it's not just about the expansion and the growth. It's about when you need to rest and cocoon, your community gives you that space, and it gives you that sense of permission to do what you need to do.
That is beautiful. And by the way, I'm loving the metaphors you are using because I mean they are
I love
just
a
lit.
metaphor.
Yeah, I'm also a metaphor lover. And when you are, just painting that picture for us, so I am literally visualizing the life garden and going back to cocoon. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing and talking about the community. Yes, you're right, Laura. There is extreme power in this community because as coaches we know that when we began this journey of coaching, we got together, we built a community of like-minded individuals or like-minded people who were there for each other. And now even we all have chosen different path for ourselves. But what we are really doing, we are, I would say that we are a global community, I would say that are helping individuals or empowering each other. And that is the beauty of this community, because when you are not your 100%, I can guarantee you that somebody out there can support you in one way or another, where you will feel that you are not alone. And in fact, that is the mission of Fearless Women as well. We really want other women to feel that you are not alone in this journey of life. There will be pressure, there will be external pressure, there will be internal pressure, and it's this is life. We cannot
Yeah.
really complain. This is life. The life is not all bed of roses or butterflies and rainbows. It is supposed to be like this. And it's the beauty of it, because every obstacle and the challenges that are there in our life, they are there for us to make us the greater version of ourselves. But it's not easy. And if
Mm.
you have this community by your side, the community of like-minded individuals who are there to support you, that is a powerful thing. And that's what we are doing here in Fearless Women. And we always reach out to women and say to them that you are not alone in this. I can, or maybe one of our coach or Fearless Women, anybody is always there to support these women. And I would love to know that what is your perspective of building such communities, like what you are doing, what we are doing, okay? And we are empowering individuals out there. We are helping them, really get in touch with their roots, their real themselves, or you, I would say. So why it is important to cultivate that environment of community, I would say. What's your perspective on that?
Because I think that we live in a world which is more and more driven by technology, and we can so quickly um, sink into our phones or the screens, or where life gets so busy, you can very quickly just get into this mode of getting through, kind of blinkering yourself and just trying to survive and get through the day. And by way of responding to that, it's like it's so easy just to look at your phone, or just look at scroll through social media and all of those kind of things. And in the world of AI, it's going to be even more extreme in that way for sure. So you know and I am so guilty of that, and I think when we do that, when we just polarize ourselves and just kind of um, um, get into the habit of feeling like we're alone because you just go to your screen as opposed to somebody else or another human, because it's easier to do that, it's much quicker to do that. That's when I think the narrative can become negative. I'm not doing enough, or as a business owner at this time of year, so much is being shared, around people's successes, that it's very easy when you're alone just to sink into the, well, what have I done? I don't know if I haven't done enough. I should be doing more. Whereas when you can cultivate a community around you, so you can just reach out and say, hey, I am feeling, really crap about this. I should have been doing this. Can you help? Or what would you suggest? There is just always that person at the end of the phone or down the road or wherever it is, for you, that you can reach out to just for that moment of support. Those powerful words that I received on Monday, just to be able to connect. I think that is the most crucial thing, is to connect with another human, heart to heart, and just share that vulnerability, because you can't do that on a screen. It just feels very cold. But just to have a hug, if you can, that's the best. um, but just, yeah, so just to be able to reach out to another human and find that deeper sense of connection, I think is critical. Um,
And
Go
yeah,
on, sorry.
please go ahead.
Yeah. No, I teach yoga at a mental health hub in our community, and it's every Friday. And I think at this time of year in particular, it can be even more intense for people. There's a lot of people that are really struggling at this time of year. So being able to go to a community hub in person as well, and just be able to talk, and just to share how you're feeling, I think it's so needed, and it's needed more and more. So the more that we can encourage that in our areas of work, the better.
Couldn't agree more, and I totally understand that. And to be very honest with you, when you are in that kind of community, you don't even have to speak up. Sometimes the presence of the community is enough, because
Mm,
when you are around beautiful souls, you're there is a, I'm not sure what is the word for that, but you feel a calmness, internal peace inside of you just by being around them. You do not even
yeah,
have to speak up, because sometimes we are so much, there is so much going inside of us that maybe we are not ready to share that, and it's okay. Sometimes you
Mm,
do not even need to be vulnerable. Just by being in that presence of someone else who is supportive enough to be there for you is a powerful thing. And
mm,
that I always say, because sometimes people think that, oh, cultivating a community and going into the community, showing up there means you have to be vulnerable. No, you really do not have to be, until and
mm.
unless that is your choice. That is your
Yes.
choice. And if
Mm-hmm.
if you're not comfortable making that choice, then it's completely all right.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to
Absolutely.
give that message to everyone who is listening. That's completely all right. You do not need to force yourself to be vulnerable. Anybody could understand that. You just need to just take one step to cultivate that community for yourself, or to just enter into any community that you like. And yeah,
Yeah.
so you shared what do you call yoga thing, and you said that you are a yoga teacher. I would love to know, how do you incorporate the teachings of yoga into your coaching practice?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a somatic approach to coaching. So um, I offer different things to my clients. So sometimes it's literally we do an initial sort of 20 minutes of breath work
Okay.
and gentle yoga, and then we move on to coaching. But also it's then incorporated. So most of the time I'll start my sessions by breathing and actually just becoming much more present in the space, being aware of what's around us, and just in terms of how the body feels. So maybe a body scan, and tuning in really to how the breath feels, how the body feels, becoming aware of what's happened in the day, and just slowing the pace right down. Because through my experience in my corporate career, and the professionals that I tend to work with, a lot of the time someone will come to a call, to a coaching call, and sort of that whole energy of the call is very much okay, let's do this, like okay, where we are, like, I've had a busy day, right, I want to talk about this, and off we go. And and if that's what the client wants, of course we can move, but just through my experience, it can really help just to pause and just allow that energy to dissipate, because again, that energy is often clouding what's at the root of what really needs to be spoken about. It's kind of almost a reaction or a response from the day that's happened, or what's happened more immediately than what's going to be much more transformational, um, if we take a moment to pause together and then speak from that place.
Mm-hmm. Talking to a yoga teacher, I would like you to shed some light on the importance of pausing itself, because we think that pausing, or to pause, it's not something big, but it really does make a difference. Because when you are entering from one segment of your day to another segment, if you could just breathe and pause for a while, you can just literally connect to your roots. You can just literally connect to your inner being. So would you like to elaborate on that? What's your perspective on that, I would say?
Yeah, and my former 2 year, self 2 years ago, it really got frustrated, frankly, with so many people. Of now, I'm one of who said, just slow down, just take a breath. Like, why are you going at the pace of light, speed of light? And it really used to irritate me. It's like, 'cause I don't have any time in my day to slow down. I do not know what you're talking about. It's really annoying. Um, so so I get it, and it's just it just and so it's a process. It's a process of knowing and trusting that something needs to shift first and foremost, because without that awareness you're not going to want to slow down, because if you're in that sort of mode all the time. So it's just that awareness and that knowing that you need to do it, and then building it into the day, I think is really important. So just as a starting point is, if you're walking to the tube or something to work, then just taking a few moments just to take a slower pace, and just breathe more deeply when you're walking. Be more intentional about the walk as opposed to going from A to B. And then once you've kind of brought that more into your day to day, slowing down and pausing, for me at least, is always about shifting the energy, because when you're going from something that's super busy and hectic to wanting to a different environment, it's just intentionally shifting from one thing to the other. And to do that, you have to bring your body and your energy, along with you.
Yeah.
So coming from a really busy day, for example, and just before you open the door to your house, just taking an intentional moment to take a deep breath. Do I want to bring this, full on, crazy, hectic, maybe stressed energy into the house? Maybe you need to offload and have and vent and everything. That's fine. But I think my point here is the intentionality of slowing down, and the shift in the energy that you get when you do that. And in yoga, when you're on the mat, it's intentionally being present on the mat. It's your space to be in your body and to really understand and feel how your body's feeling. So that's the part that's important. I think it's that presence and awareness of the energy that you want to shift.
Beautiful. And experience have really taught me that by slowing down, you are being more productive and efficient in the longer run.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
you think that, in short run, maybe you are doing well, but in the longer run, it would be a disastrous thing that if you do to yourself, that you do not pause or you do not slow down. And I just love that you mentioned when you slow down, you literally give yourself an opportunity to shift your energy. Maybe you are in a negative energy, or you are frustrated at this moment coming from work, and when you allow yourself to pause for a moment or slow down, you can literally choose differently in that moment. You can literally
yeah,
choose, okay, now I have entered the let's say now I have entered the home. Now I'll have my family time. So
mm,
do I need to operate from the same energy, that is
yeah,
frustration or whatever you are going through at that moment? Or do I need to operate from something lovable? I mean, it could be a loving energy, it could be caring, it could be anything, or maybe a joyous energy that you want to bring in that moment with your family members. So what you're really doing, the instant benefit, I would say, of slowing down would be that you get an opportunity to shift your energy. And that is a
yeah.
powerful thing, I would say.
That's it. And it's the same thing with coaching. So it's the same thing. Do I want to bring this energy into this coaching session? Is that really what is going to be transformational in terms of the shift that I want to make? Because so often the energy that we bring in is on the peripheral. It's the response. It's everything that we're bringing in from the day. And so again, this sense of slowing down before a coaching session and really tuning into that and taking some deep breaths, maybe doing some movement to actually just shake that energy off, because actually it's not going to serve in this session to get to where you want to get to, as opposed to it kind of clouding and getting in the way of doing the deeper work that will actually help move things in the way that you want to.
True. And I have just realized that it's every moment we have that choice. In fact, every moment we have
Mhm.
that choice to shift that energy. It's just that we sometimes think that we have to operate from this negative energy for a longer period of time. Maybe that is not true. Maybe you have the power. Maybe you have the power to choose, make a different choice this time. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to feel frustrated. Nobody wants to feel sad or irritated or worried at any point in time. So that is the thing. So that is beautiful. So,
We
Laura,
definitely, we can't
yeah.
control anything that anyone else brings to us. We can't control anything around us, but what we can control is how we respond.
Yeah, that is powerful. Laura, I was going through your profile and I noticed that you offer three methods to your clients to really help them connect to their roots: one-on-one coaching sessions, the workshops, and retreats. Would you like to elaborate on these three methods so that anybody who is interested in working with you get to know more about of these methods?
Yeah, of course. And I call them methods because um, being in the career that I was, I did a lot of change work. In fact, the chief of staff role, I was in a change consultancy, so everything was around change, effectively. Um, and so there's lots of different methods which you can use in terms of the change and transformation that you want to create. Layering on top of that, when we're wanting to make a shift in our lives, I think different methods come into play at different times. So there's never a one size fits all for anybody. And what I wanted to create was different spaces depending on where you are in that journey of change. So, some people might just be right at the, not even knowing what it is, but just needing some space. So I wanted to create the seasonal workshops because, again, being from the corporate world and frankly, just the working world, a lot of us work to quarters. So it's like Q1 planning, Q2, da da da, everything is sort of through that lens. And so we forget that actually nature has a different rhythm. Nature works in seasons. And so we put so much pressure on ourselves, again, as we were saying at the beginning of this call, like to finish everything off by the end of December, so that we can be afresh and anew for January 1. Whereas actually that's deep in winter. January 1 is fully in winter. So in nature, everything is still cocooned and sleeping and hibernating. And there's lots of our world which mean that we can't necessarily hibernate until, February, middle of February. And that's okay, or the beginning of March. But why I created the seasonal retreat, the seasonal workshops is to begin to reacquaint ourselves with the seasons. So to have a couple of workshops in the spring, so that I teach yoga and I have a nutritionist that works with me to go through some of the movements of spring to emerge, and she pairs some delicious food to nourish the body for spring. I do the same for summer in terms of sustaining, in autumn, and then in winter. And so creating that space just to start with is a method to begin to sort of start creating space to understand what you want to do. Um, the retreats, I went to Colombia for 3 months, when I took some time out, when I took the leap, and I had the most incredible experience at the retreat, Madre Cocoon, and it was such a deep transformational time for me that I wanted to be able to offer that to other people as well. So again, it's just another method depending on how that resonates. And then my somatic coaching is a more ongoing, more regular space, which I hold for my clients. So the idea is that you can join me in all of that in a year, and do the seasonal retreats as well as the coaching and the retreat and the retreats, or you can pick and choose whichever method you feel resonates.
That is lovely. So, Laura, before we wrap up, there's a last segment for us where you just need to come up with one line or maybe two line answers, and that is a fun part of this interview of this podcast. So, are you ready for that?
I hope so.
Okay. So, Laura, if your life were a movie, what would be its title?
My life was a movie. What would be its title? Oh my goodness. Oh. Um, Return to the root of who you are.
Lovely, lovely. That I can see. Everything is aligning with your mission of root beginnings. So, Laura, who are the fearless women in your life who have really inspired you to be the greatest version of yourself?
Oh my goodness. The list is too long. I am so, so incredibly grateful to have uh, multiple incredible women in my life, truly. From my dear friends here around me in the community, to people that I've met along the way. Um, my mum, I probably have to say as well. Um, just yeah, she actually was the one that said, in a magazine article, actually, she said, if I'm in a community, I want to help it grow. And those words stuck with me when I was setting up Root Beginnings as well. So yeah, so many incredible, incredible women.
That's lovely. Laura, what is your life mantra?
Oh, gosh, that's hard. There's multiple, but I think the quote by Lao Tzu, Nothing in nature hurries, yet everything is accomplished.
Yeah, that is powerful. That is literally powerful because that is something that I always believe in. So thank you for reminding me, I would say. Um, yes, Laura, if there is one word that you would like to share with your clients or anybody listening to you that your coaching offers, what is that word you would say or mention to them?
One word,
One word that best describe it could be, I mean, what you can deliver in your coaching business.
possibility.
Wow, that is powerful. Laura, what is that one advice you would like to give to our listeners?
Oh, goodness. Take your time. That it's your path and your pace. And although the world makes us feel like everything has to be done immediately, you know, take your time to reconnect with who you are at the root and to follow your own path at your pace.
Powerful. Give me three adjectives that can best describe your feeling at this moment.
Um, Bubbly. I'll go with bubbly. Bubbly, heartful, um, bubbly and heartful and warm. I think I just feel I've got my candle burning, so I just feel kind of, yeah, bubbly, heartful and warm.
Mhm. Thank you, Laura. And where can people find you?
So at Root Beginnings on Instagram, Root ROT Beginnings, or on my website www.rootbeginnings.co.uk, or lowercase, one word.
Is there anything else you want to share before we leave?
I think just where we are, in this time of year, just to have a peaceful and restful couple of weeks, and just to give yourself permission that you don't have to emerge on January 1st with everything set, all the plans created, and a clear vision of what you want the year to be. Just let yourself emerge in your own time and let the magic of the unknown unfold.
Let the magic of the unknown unfold, and let your blueprints go for a while. Let them go for a while. So thank you, our lovely audience. Thank you, Lola. It was lovely meeting you. I was super excited about this interview, and I'm glad that we met and we had this lovely conversation. Thank you.
It's been amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, our lovely audience. Until we meet next time, and have a wonderful holiday season. Bye bye. Take care.